and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. I'm Adam Wilbourn from What Culture, joined by another one of Dolly Boys, Michael Hamflett from What Culture, to review everything that happened on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review AEW Dynamite, but also do AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, this show formerly known as NXT 2.0, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete. A quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. As I said, though, joined by Michael Hamflett to review last night's AEW Dynamite on our best behaviour, despite the lack of Michael Sidgwick. Get well soon, at M. Sidgwick, if you want to send him your regards. Hamflett, what did you make of last night's show?
Fine. It was fine. I've done the ups and downs, which the Sidgwick often says ends up being a little bit of a transcript because all the thoughts that you've just put on the screen are then coming out your mouth in a podcast a couple of hours later. 6 and 4.
Okay.
And it was one of them shows. I never want every AEW podcast we do to become some sort of round table on the state of AEW, but it does sort of feel like that happens most weeks now. You're kind of analysing these shows not just as episodes, but as sort of front of house for AEW at the moment. AEW in 2024 did this one big decision, define the direction of the company for the rest of the year. And it's really hard to keep saying the same thing and it's not start sounding like a criticism. This was not particularly hot. This was in places really quite interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And occasionally quite creative and focused on some, at least, key wrestlers in new roles that you really want to see them progressing. But when it doesn't feel like the hot show, when it doesn't feel like the hot hand, it almost takes away from all of those positives. And that's a 6 and 4 or a 5 and 5 or a 4 and 6 or whatever. That's All Elite Wrestling. I want them to continue being that. I do want it, because the 6 and 4 becomes a 7 and 3, becomes an 8 and 2. The characters will hit in a way that you wouldn't expect, all that sort of stuff. I can't imagine at the moment anybody watching an episode of Dynamite or Collision and screaming at the top of the lungs for a particular character or a storyline development. There's a value judgment on somebody that might, by the way. There was a couple of surprises and a couple of comebacks on this show that if that's your favourite wrestler or if this is your favourite story, you're going to be absolutely over the moon doing backflips. But the product just isn't generating those moments, with the exception of one wrestler who wasn't here again, or the type of match that at the moment feels saved for pay-per-views.
Yeah,
it's a tough balance to strike for AEW, while they, in my opinion, can keep doing the right things, but in a way that doesn't appear to be giving them just reward.
Yeah, it was a mixed bag of a show for me in terms of huge developments, obviously, for Double or Nothing and Anarchy in the Arena. Great pop at the end, which we will get to when the Team AEW members were revealed. There was definitely an ooh when Brody King came up bleeding in that no DQ match for the TNT title. But in the words of our colleague who's not here, there was also a few moments where I went, huh? Which we'll get to as well.
Broadly positive, but I think as we get into this, there are things to analyse that don't come across that well. And I think it's important to get off at the top that, I think I liked more of this Dynamite than I didn't, but it might not sound like it as we go on, because I think the things to pick on are really, really worth picking at. And trying to there were things on this show that for me underpinned a lot of why so many people just can't find that feeling in their soul. I was screaming alongside Cody Rhodes at Backlash, and I know that as we sit here on an AEW podcast, there will be people that could never feel that for WWE. It will just never be more than a 7 or an 8 or whatever your WWE ceiling is. But I know there is and especially on this podcast, a sizable portion of our listenership or viewership or the people you read on X that want to feel that 10 again for an AEW moment. And
this is the thing, when people say that we're overly negative, yes, we do hold AEW to a very high standard, but that's because we know the levels that they've hit in the past.
Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near back to the point where somebody would feel that 10 for what we saw here, or somebody would feel that 10 for the build to Double or Nothing. Once again, I don't want to like harp on about old stuff because I know we should get into the show itself, but like Double or Nothing on the look of that card will be a great show.
Yes.
Just like Dynasty was a great show. But like, I know people just think I'm acting in bad faith when I say that like sometimes the matches don't matter. Of course the matches matter, it's pro wrestling. But anticipation lasts longer than the match. Build lasts, you get to live with a good build or a good anticipation for weeks, maybe months. You get to live with how good that match is for all of like 20 minutes. And then if it's really great, you get to relive it in the aftermath. But like, as long as AEW continues to like rely so heavily on the quality of its pay-per-views, I just think it'll be hard for a sizable number of people that will watch anyway to feel that emotion like deep in the, like the fire in the belly for this. I don't see it coming back like until they like solve this puzzle of how to get that feeling back in the build as much as in the payoff itself.
It's sort of conflicted as well as to whether has Tony Khan just given up trying to run this show now, or is he just running it from a distance and going, well, there's some things I'm just not going to be able to control because I'm not in the building anymore.
That is a sort of very salient point to make when we are now in the throes of a three-way, well, no, it's a two-way power struggle, but three-way in the sense that like the babyface side has both an administrator in Tony Khan and wrestlers in the form of, I know Kenny Omega's in the hospital, but Kenny Omega and his team AEW versus the heel authority figures. But both are exerting similar amounts of control because they are allowed to. Like, it can't be a power struggle if one side is dominant.
Yes.
I understand that, but we said this last week. Take 2021. Like, I'll say 20. I know Sidge would say 2020. I'll say 2021. Was anybody caring if Tony Khan was running the show from gorilla position or running it from his laptop in 2021?
Yeah.
No, because the most important thing was Hangman Page winning the title and whatever CM Punk was going to do that week.
Yeah.
Like, nobody was asking where Tony Khan was situated. But now, like within the fiction of AEW, you are asked to consider if he's in Jacksonville on a laptop or if he's going to be back in the building. The week that Tony Khan returns to the building, I feel like they'll advertise it. And the bigger question you should be asking is, should they? And I think that is like, we have arrived at stable war just in time for the Anarchy in the Arena, Blood and Guts season that we always get. Good thing. Mm-hmm. There is an aftermath to this where Tony Khan's return is being built to as an event. Is that good? I don't think so.
Speaking of events, Double or Nothing goes down May 26th, of course. But the big date that everyone needs in their diaries is Friday because, as everyone is saying, remember,
the 10th of May.
Because that is when It's Always Sunny at What Culture. The full show goes out on the What Culture Wrestling YouTube channel, 3 p.m. this Friday. Join us. We'll be in the chat and enjoying it with you. Join us for that one. And later on today on this podcast channel on YouTube at 6 p.m., the Dadley Boys in Philly, the podcast section of our live show is going to go out. So do watch that and join us for that a little bit later on today.
Inside number 9, May 9, that is. That's today. So, sorry, I watched the return of Inside Number 9 last night. It was really good. So
it's
it
class.
was better than Dynamite. Got tickets for Inside Number 9 live.
Really?
Yeah. Like, it was in a queue for 45 minutes, but got them.
I remember watching that episode that's pretty much entirely silent. Inside Number 9 episode, and people were looking at me on the train because I was laughing so much.
It's incredible.
Incredible television.
Different episode every week. Watch that. I'd love to do Inside Number 9 like review podcast, like in place of like one of these every week. Not this Dynamite one every week. God almighty, I think we started strong and I don't want it to get derailed by our bad behaviour.
Well, yes, before you go to that place, we've got to talk about Adam Copeland going to that place because he's interviewed as the show opens about his thoughts on facing Brody King, and he says, I don't feel great and my mind has been going to places I don't want to. Tonight it stops. He's been speaking to Tony Khan and they've made the match no DQ. House of Black wanted the radar superstar. Well, tonight they're going to get him.
Can we talk about this, plus the Malachi Black video later, plus the match itself after the match?
Okay.
Because I feel like that's going to combine a lot of conflicting thoughts I have on all of this.
The first match on the show was Trent Beretta versus Orange Cassidy. This grudge feud that started, obviously, with Trent finally turning and obviously Chuck Taylor being taken out seemingly forever. So Cassidy's obviously pissed off and starts fast, drops Beretta, hits him with a suicide elbow. But Beretta comes back and posts Cassidy, hammers away, tries to throw him into the barricade, but Cassidy leapfrogs it and they brawl into the crowd. They go through the fans and Cassidy hits punches and Trent comes back and then gets suplexed on the concrete, but he comes back by hitting a backdrop off the barricade into the ringside area. But then Cassidy sweeps his legs out for a rough bump onto the railing for Trent. They get back inside, and there's a desperation orange punch from Orange Cassidy, and they're both down as Don Callis comes out to join commentary. Get well soon to Taz, by the way. He wasn't on this show, recovering from something to do with his knee. I've forgotten exactly what, but I hope he gets well very soon. We go to break, come back. Trent counters a Stun Dog Millionaire, but gets hit with a spinning DDT. Beretta comes back from the kicks from Cassidy with a half-and-half suplex, flips off the crowd and spike Cassidy with several pile drivers and a knee. Goes to rip off the turnbuckle pad with the referee checking on Cassidy. Gets caught, but whilst all that's going on, Orange has ripped off the turnbuckle pad in the other corner. He dodges a charge from Trent, who hits the exposed buckle and gets schoolboyed by Orange Cassidy, who gets the 1-2-3. Beretta immediately attacks him. He hits a spike pile driver on the ring steps and then does that slingshot into the ring, underneath ring frame thing.
Girder stuff this week.
Yeah. And Trent goes under the ring, brings out a toolbox as Cassidy's like desperately trying to grab a chair to protect himself. Don Callis comes there and stands between the two of them. Chris Statlander and a whole load of referees manage to separate them, while Statlander pleads with Beretta to just stop all this.
I've loads and loads of good things to say about this and only one bad, so I'm going to just save that at the end because I want to be broadly positive about this. A strong brawl. Like, this match was the right level of, when wrestlers are in a blood feud, but, like, really, right? Like, I know there's this criticism of, they started with a lockup, but they hate each other. But within the confines of a wrestling match, at some point, they're probably going to they're going to grab a headlock or they're going to grab a hold.
Muscle memory as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But, so you could argue at any point over the course of the match they're having, let's say it goes 12 minutes, that why would they ever do anything but swing wildly? If you were that full of hatred for your worst enemy, how is it that, yes, in the first 10 seconds, you're violent, and then 5 minutes in, it's like, you know what, I'm going to try a spinning toe hold. Like, nobody ever picks up on that. It's always how the match starts, right? So this was none of that, really. This was a match fought under normal, quote-unquote, rules, and we did sort of suggest there might be something a bit more violent down the road.
Yes.
But they coloured outside the lines very effectively. The crowd brawl, I thought, was super impactful. They were bumping hard, they were hitting hard, so it never felt like they were kind of cheating the rivalry, even though they were trapped within the confines of a normal rules match. And it had to be within the confines of a normal rules match for the finish to be effective, which I loved, by the way. Don Callis comes out, and like as he did last week when he was out on the ramp, that he brings with him a sense of doom. Like, that's an effective heel. Like, the feeling in the pit of your stomach that he's out here changes the energy, and especially while it appears that he's corrupting, but in a good way, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Right? If he's like
manipulating him whilst he's at his lowest ebb, I think you said last week.
Yeah, it's invisible hand stuff again, isn't it? Like, and we haven't really seen that. I've realised I've just said hand stuff. Like, it's that invisible hand character that we've not really seen for a while. Proper master manipulator stuff, rather than just, I've got a new heel and he's in my gang. Like, there was even, he said he doesn't need best friends, he needs family. That's a great line.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got Don Callis as this sort of like this spectre on commentary, and you're worried because at the moment, not only do you, the viewer trying to engage in the kayfabe, worry that he's going to corrupt Orange Cassidy, you, the sort of fan that's seen enough wrestling in your life, knows that it's also probably not going to end well, because in reality, he's probably going to bring Trent in instead. So it's the worst of everything, and that's what Don Callis should bring. That's his music. That's what it's supposed to be, right? The finish as a result, where Cassidy like outsmarts Trent, but in a very heelish way. Like, Trent pulls the turnbuckle pad off because he's a heel now, but then like Cassidy, you could argue, was just doing well, like
turnabout fair play.
Turnabout is fair play, but it's pretty heelish to use it anyway. And like, if you wanted, you could look upon that as, I wonder where he's kind of like got that bit of guidance from when things aren't going well. And then of course your mind goes straight to Don Callis. So I really, really like that. I also really liked the framing of Chris Statlander ostensibly coming out to be like, Trent, man, like, we're done here. But the two of them leave together all the same. Because if you're teasing like Chris Statlander is going to turn as well, then it almost makes sense to have them appear as if they're no longer together. But it's odd how they're suddenly always together. You know, it's like visually they're on the same page, even if it appears as if she's bollocking him or they just can't get it together anymore. You know, like so I like that as a bit of potential foreshadowing. The one issue, and it's a big one, and it's big picture stuff. It's excess. Sidge has used this word a lot. Excess within AEW will be ultimately the death of all you love in AEW, because there is always like too much of a good thing. For a while, it was blood.
Yeah,
for example, but there has always been this case where, like, right, you've done that enough now, and there's too much of it.
And it worked really well later on in the show as a result, in my opinion.
Yeah. Wacky friendships, typically with Orange Cassidy. It is. I'm not here to be frigging Rip Rogers bollocking young wrestlers about diving, or the Deeb man not telling people to grab a hold. But in order to arrive at the visual of Don Callis going, "Are you all right?" to Orange Cassidy, you have him stand up within seconds of a pile driver on the stairs and a slingshot into the... Like, that's a stretcher job at worst. Or Orange Cassidy laid horizontal on the ground and Callis just going over and saying, leave him, this is over. And then being like, Orange, come round. Get some help out here, get some... Like, you cannot just stand up. It's one thing in the match to do it when the adrenaline is flowing and you want to win and you want the winner's share of the purse or whatever the psychology is for a wrestler fighting through ungodly pain to get the win. It is quite another when you've had the adrenaline dump and the match is over and a guy has pile-driven you on the steps to then be like back on your feet being walked out. And it's like a big picture complaint rather than a small picture one, but it takes the piss. It absolutely takes the piss, and I just didn't... Like, it took the piss, and it took me out of that moment, which otherwise I thought was some very, very nice storytelling indeed. I think we are getting the Trent and Cassidy rematch, and it's probably going to come when the reveal of Don Callis' actual plan plays out.
And hopefully heel Chuck Taylor, because that's what I really want to see.
Well, this is it. Like, how retired is retired? We're about to find out with Chuck Taylor, aren't we? So they keep talking about it.
I hope it's okay. If it isn't, obviously.
It gets more serious sounding with each week, doesn't it? Like Excalibur this week going through is like what was actually wrong with him, and it was like, oh man, Chuck, are you really done?
Yeah.
So yeah, all the more to play with if and when he does come back.
Should we move on to the next section?
Yeah.
Okay, go. The Elites are showing right. Well, just cut that bit out. Like, it's really easy. Even I know how to do that on some of our videos.
Yeah, we nearly lost an entire podcast yesterday, and all it took was you doing a trumpet sound effect, and we were back on board.
Anyway,
they use clown car noises.
The Elite drive in their car, and they park in Tony Khan's spot because he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
They do a video package from last week with Kenny Omega and all the attack from the Elite, of course, and they show the comments from Jack Perry saying Omega's not as good as he thinks he is. What hurt Perry the most is that Omega isn't the hero that they need him to be. AEW doesn't need him anymore, and everyone has to make a sacrifice. And Omega made his. And then we cut to Kenny Omega in a hospital bed, apologising he's not there tonight. So the EVP's had other plans in mind. 15 years of friendship. It's hard not to take what they did personally, despite the fact that Matthew Jackson said it wasn't that last week. But he says, May 26th is the 5-year anniversary of where it all began, where it all happened. Issues a challenge. The Elite versus Team AEW. Anarchy in the arena. Omega said FTR, one of the best tag teams in the world, are the first two members of the team. The other two will reveal themselves sooner than the Elite might hope.
Yeah, predictable, but predictable is good sometimes. We talked about this yesterday. I don't think there was anybody that wasn't assuming this announcement was coming. And AEW, to their immense credit, have established a stipulation that people actually look forward to in Anarchy in the Arena, even though there could be arguments against it, saying like how WWE would like, oh, it's October, Hell in a Cell time. That's where we're at now with Anarchy in the Arena, and nonetheless, people get hyped.
Yeah.
So you have created good law around what this match promises, and they were still able to deliver it in a way that allowed for a big show closing angle.
Yeah, so and you knew it's one of those things. I hate the bad faith people who are like, yeah, but how did you know? The fans didn't know to stick around for that. Well, they said throughout the show, the Elite are going to come out and talk about this later on the show.
Yeah.
And you can reasonably assume when Kenny Omega says sooner than you'd hope, considering it's about 2 and a bit weeks away.
Yeah.
Come on.
As well, I don't mind I can buy a lot in wrestling, such as wrestlers hitting the ropes. But I can buy that the Elite were going to basically force their own overrun because they've got the power to do so. Like Tony Khan on his laptop fuming because it's like, I'm going to get in so much trouble with the network. But the Elite just being like, no, we're just having 5 more minutes because we've got the power tonight. Like, that's the sort of stuff
We'll pay extra for it. Well, we won't, but...
Yeah, somebody, I believe you can surrender to the fiction there, and then you get a nice big moment with the live crowd as well. So, and this show is in desperate need of, hot crowd visuals.
Yes.
And they knew they were lining one
Exactly.
up. So I support that.
You believe in that, and I believe in Joe Hendry. Tony Schiavone introduces Serena Deeb to the stage. This was a little bit weird. I got annoyed for two different reasons during this, none of which was Serena Deeb's fault. So Serena Deeb's out there with Tony, says she's excited to wrestle for the women's title at Double or Nothing. She knows that everyone loves Toni Storm, and she's heard all the talk about people saying that she can't beat her, basically. But she wanted to explain her reasons why losing for her is not an option. Several months ago, she returned after a 15-month stint on the shelf, the hardest time of her life. She starts talking about having 3 unprovoked seizures. This is where I got angry, because the crowd, for whatever reason, started chanting, "Let's go Oilers."
Yeah,
I thought it was probably just unfortunate timing more than we don't want to hear all this. But it just really took me out. I was just like, she's talking about nearly dying. Shut up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's this very heartfelt promo from seemingly healed, we'll get into it, Serena Deeb, said 3 unprovoked seizures. It's hard for her, the most traumatic and scary time she's ever had. This weight was on her shoulders all the time. She didn't know if it was going to happen again. She saw doctors. She got scanned. She was trying to figure out why it happened. She couldn't do that. No one could. From what she's learned, the hardest part is that a lot of times you don't know what causes them. She thought about all her career, but through the uncertainty, the vision she kept was becoming world champion. And basically, that's what kept her going. Then she's interrupted by Timeless Toni Storm, who says, I came out here to hear from a challenger, not a charity case.
Huge pop before she arrived, by the way.
Yes.
They're saying about the Oilers thing, I think it's worth adding that crowd went ballistic when her music hit and she came out. Star reaction.
Deeb said Storm's better start giving her shh. She's going to fight for her life to become women's champion at Double or Nothing. And Storm said, after everything you've gone through, I don't give a single solitary shh. And there's a face-off. Storm goes for a cheap shot. Deeb blocks it and KOs her with a right hand. And Luther comes out and carries Storm to the back. So Toni Storm's a heel again.
Right. I was thinking about this morning on the bus into work as I was writing up the article and even as you were recapping there. How can I call this segment a mess without sounding hyperbolic and not spending 20 minutes first defending just how much I love both of these wrestlers?
Absolutely.
2 of my absolute favourite wrestlers in AEW ever. One of the best combinations of a match I could think of in the entire company.
First thing we said, didn't we, when we were like, okay, what if it's not Mercedes or someone like that, or they're not doing the Mariah stuff yet? Serena Deeb was the name you went to.
Who doesn't want to watch Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb, right? I don't think you like wrestling if you don't want to watch these two. So I'm trying to cover that off as succinctly as I can before I get to why I think this was a total mess, right? I've been distracted a couple of times during this podcast by your shirt, right? Who is the man at the front of that shirt, right? That man there, Cody Rhodes, in 2019, when that picture was taken, said there was no such thing as heels and baby faces anymore. Flick on WWE, how did that work out for him, right? I'm not saying he was completely wrong, but it was an overcorrection of a problem that wrestling has had for, realistically decades now, about what is real heat. Who's a real hero in this fictional world? Who are the real baddies when you know what they're doing is not really bad? Right? The answer to the question is Chris Jericho. But who are the real heels now? And I understood where Cody was coming from, even if I disagreed. And I think just inadvertently becoming the biggest money drawing babyface in pro wrestling has probably suggested he would also walk back some of that.
Yes.
Even if the sentiment was something he stuck with. This is that point he was trying to make in 2019 completely eating itself, you know? There is a tweener problem in AEW. It is, Sage has been on this one for a while. There is a big tweener problem in AEW, and it is eating programs alive, and it did the same thing here. 2 weeks ago in Daly's Place, we saw Toni Storm overtly act as a babyface for the first time towards Mariah May, and it was kind of thrilling because for the first time this character could just be outwardly cheered by the fans because we saw this heart that she'd never extended to Mariah May in the past. Last week, in a nice touch, you were asked to question that heart when she threw the towel in, right? And I'm going to come back to this because is she the babyface that you thought she was last week, or is she in fact trying to protect herself because she can see Mariah May rising up the rankings? Those shades of grey would be absolutely fine, right? But why was Mariah May in such pain? Why did Mariah May's career hang by a thread last week? Because she was being stretched half to death by Serena Deeb, the acknowledged heel of this story. The woman that came out while Toni Storm in Daly's Place was doing the right thing by Mariah May to lay hands on that title and say, down the lens, the next time I hold this title, it's because I'm going to take it from you.
We couldn't hear her say that at the time, but yeah, subsequently.
What did Toni Storm do about that? Nothing, because she was seen to be caring for a friend, right? That was the story that was laid out here. I am not arguing against, in a month's time, when this program is over, in 2 months' time, when you're telling your next Serena Deeb story, to say, do you think when I was sat at home having seizures that I was able to think about coming back to wrestling, that like I didn't want more than anything to be back in this ring? Use that. Of course use that. It's amazing for a babyface promo. Like, I was scared for my life. I was scared that I was never going to be able to do this again. The professor of professional wrestling, never going able to be out there and do what she does best. How many like wrestlers have we seen had to live with that kind of trauma that we could then also like immediately like relate to, even if we've never taken a bump in our life, right? Great babyface fodder. Why here? Because not only does it not make sense within the story they've already told, it then forces Toni Storm, as she did here, to look like a complete arsehole. Like coming out and saying, oh, I don't care. Like this above it all, this is E-Fed stuff. Like my character's the coolest. He's also the most handsome. He's also the hardest. He's also got the most interesting backstory. He's a deathmatch king, but he's actually a poet. So, and it, like your opponent's left with nothing.
Yeah.
You've got every single attribute set to 99, right? Toni Storm was sent out there to do that. So it's like, oh, like I've been a heartfelt babyface the last couple of weeks, but I'm a little bit scared of Mariah May. Well, also, I'm just going to take the piss out of you with my swearing. Like, she deserved the shot to the face because she tried to sucker punch her first, right? The fans popped huge for Toni Storm. If Serena Deeb is going to come out and cut any promo this week, it should have just been a sick of it all, like, I'm a f***ing wrestler.
I'll do whatever it takes to win this title.
And I'm against this, like, movie star, like head mental wannabe who doesn't show respect for the belt. And then Toni Storm as a babyface can be like, do not mistake like the fact that I am a star for the fact that I'm also the best woman to hold this title. I've proven it over and over and over again. And I'm not scared of your submission holds. Because you could even say, like, you can't do to me what you did to my protege. That's her way to subtly bury Mariah May a little bit. Not to come out and just take the piss. Like, you know that Hulk Hogan thing where like he's got his foot on Jeff Jarrett's chest at Bash of the Beach, like, this is the reason this company and the bullshit state it's in is because of stuff like this, Vince Russo. Like, we're not there, but this was a prime example of the best and worst of AEW. It's great that wrestlers can go out there and be creative, use bits of real life, swear, do a bit of like character stuff that feels a little bit off the cuff. But it's a bloody nightmare for continuity, for storyline development, if they're just going out there and betraying what happened 7 days ago, 14 days ago. It's annoying. And I think I love these two performers and feel bad for the two performers. I'm basically required to decide who I love the more in real life because I can no longer engage in the fiction. It's a massive problem with AEW. And because they can't grasp post-kayfabe any more than any other pro wrestling, they are like grappling with the problem and losing. I don't have the answers, but I just wish that they could simplify it with so many of their characters.
We follow that up. Lexi Nair's backstage with Orange Cassidy. He's got the ice pack on his neck, and Rocky Romero walks in to check on him. He says, you're all right. Anyway, sure. I've just got off the phone with Tony Khan, and he's told me if I beat Jay White, then me, you, and a partner get a trios title shot. Maybe we could team with Ishii, or maybe we could... Maybe they've mend the fence with Trent Beretta. And Cassidy's like, what are you talking about? And he says, good luck. And then Rocky Romero leaves. What was all this?
Right. Like, thank God we've seen the back of Matt Hardy. Welcome the new Matt Hardy, apparently, right in Rocky Romero. Right, two things. Rocky Romero is somehow the vice president of AEW and New Japan. That's incredible. Like, I salute that man's graft and grift to get into that position. He must be so well respected. He's so key to opening the Forbidden Door in the first place. He's a fantastic commentator too and a not half bad pro wrestler. It also means he's only half good, as we'd see later on. But ultimately, right, all these jobs, all of a sudden, and he appears in like multiple backstage segments and a match. How does that happen? How has that happened? Like maybe Tony Khan should be on site just to stop people like just taking advantage of the situation, as somebody always seems to do in this company. There's always f***ing one of them, right? Like, and what's more annoying than that, because it's wrestling, it's always been jobs for the boys, it's always been like riddled with nepotism, is that he so wants to get on television or wants his little story to feature that he's created plot holes for himself. 7 days ago, Rocky Romero looked upon the state of best friends and said, you know what, like, washing my hands of it, I'm going to start my own singles run. And it's like, well, nobody's really asking for it, but why not? Like, you've had your own trauma with best friends splitting up. Go out there and give it your best shot. Why not? Most of it will be confined to Collision. Like, but why not? And then he does. Before he even has his first match in this like Brave New World, Brave New Start, he's forgotten that detail, and he's instead rang up Tony Khan and said, "Can I have a trios match, please?" What? Like, who has just forgotten a promo from? It's one thing, right, when the Elite pepper so many details into the stories that it's like they don't forget them, but you could forgive them for forgetting one. Mm-hmm. There's so much stuff. This was his modus operandi 7 days ago. New character introduction. Duke the Dumpster Drosy, right, was a bin man. That was a stupid gimmick, but he didn't come out in week 2 and say, "Oh yeah, I work in a cafeteria." Right? I couldn't believe that this was, and I'm not thick. It was to explain that Orange Cassidy is kind of like not really giving a toss about his mates, about like,
and to get a match out there with Jay White to get the pack thing going.
You could hear Don Callis' voice in Cassidy's head, and that was the point. And I'm not just completely blowing that off. Just think of a different way to illustrate that. Or better yet, don't illustrate it at all, because it was perfectly illustrated in Seg 1, almost as if another wrestler wanted a little bit more camera time. Like, it's dumb, and it's about a wrestler that you don't even really need to care about. Realistically, do any of us need to care about Rocky Romero in 3 weeks? Of course not. But he's undermined his own new story 7 days later. It's slapdash. It is. Like, nobody will criticize it because people will have already forgotten it occurred. But I just like, what am I watching? Like,
I did the whole, what the hell was that?
Yeah, Krusty the Clown. Like,
so confused by that bit. Anyway, moving on, we have a women's match in the first hour, but it's only the only women's match on the show, don't worry. Mariah May versus Harley Cameron. Cameron's Dynamite in-ring debut. I didn't realise this until afterwards.
Dynamite debut and only a fourth match in AEW. Yeah,
she worked a few matches on Dark.
Yeah.
I thought she looked good in here, but a lot of people do across from Mariah May.
Indeed, yeah.
Cameron attacks early, kicks, Shining Wizard gets a 2 count. May comes back with a side slam and a shotgun drop kick. Cameron escapes to the apron, suckers May in with she drags her on the ropes and hits her with a high kick and brings her out to the floor, and Saraya helps beating her up as we go to commercial. When we come back, they collide and back and forth, and May hits a headbutt and a top rope drop kick, sets up Sweet Cheek Music attempt, but Saraya saves Cameron, pulling her to the outside. So May just goes outside and levels Saraya. She gets caught with the cradle as she goes back in, kicks out at 2, pops up, Mayday, 1, 2, 3. Post-match, Saraya comes in with Cameron to beat down Mariah May, but Mina Shirakawa runs out to make the save. Saraya just goes, "See you later, Harley Cameron, you can eat this," and she does. Spinning back elbow takes her down. Shirakawa and May embrace. They fake a kiss and opt to dance and share a champagne toast instead.
I'll tell you what, because I worry that my last little moan about Rocky Romero is going to look like I'm applying different standards. Like, for those that want to say, "Oh, you would never be that critical of WWE, or we never..." Well, here I'm about to issue a ton of praise about standards, so listen to that and then hold them side by side to show them not being biased here. We are in an era of a lot of wrestlers with one page on Cage Match getting TV matches. A lot, seemingly more than ever. Like, I don't know what that's about. I don't know, like, I'm not talking about the Logan Paul, like, Jesus Christ, where's this come from?
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, Christ, they're on telly quite quickly. This is a dangerous industry to not be that experienced in. This was, like, Harley Cameron, I think I counted 22, but it's one page on Cage Match, and that's always telling, right? This was the friggin' Omega Okada 4 of one page on Cage Match wrestling matches. Honestly, like,
great.
Mariah May was great here, but Harley Cameron was everywhere she needed to be. The whole story of this match, if you haven't watched it, was Mariah May, as soon as she gets an opportunity, will just beat the dog out of you with one of her strikes. She's got kicks, she's got slaps, she's got punches. If she captures you, you're done for, but even from striking distance, you're in a lot of trouble. This was like a really good night for that kind of Mariah May like match. But Harley Cameron could duck and dodge and maybe get something out of this. And when Mariah May would show Harley Cameron the gap, she made the absolute most of it. She would sleek around, and it wasn't just roll-ups and stuff. It wasn't just escapes. She was like, right, I'm in control. What one or two things have I got in my arsenal to make the most of this control? Right, I'm going to grab this hold. I'm going to try and target this body part. Soraya's there to help me. That's ideal because I just need a breather, and then back to the match I go.
When she's not dealing with creeps on the outside, as I've seen on social media.
That looked a bit too real, that, didn't it? Like, this was agented to absolute perfection and worked magnificently well within the confines of what they were asked to do here. Like, every match should be judged within its context. And within its context, this was like sort of a gold star night for the pair of them. Mariah May looking as good as she did immediately after Toni Storm's been sparked out was no accident, because you were shown after Toni Storm got knocked out with one punch, somebody that can knock people out with one punch, not an accident. Good booking, good matchmaking, good booking, good agented, good. And I really like the continued like romance tease with Mina coming out and making the save and then holding off on the kiss. Like, you are now seeing, like, that kiss is going to come. Like, that sort of the will they won't they with Mariah May is going to come, and it's going to come right at a point when Toni Storm is probably at her most paranoid that she's going to lose Mariah May's like support as well. She's like, there is somebody there that loves her, and that day is going to come. Like, I can't call who's going to turn on who, when the title match is going to happen, when the split is going to occur, but I cannot shower this story with enough credit for how they've established 4, 5, 6 more like individual stories branching off these 3 or 4 characters.
Yeah, when it happens, it is going to be completely out of the blue and also entirely predictable if you've been paying attention.
Like the perfect wrestling payoff. Yeah. Like an earned surprise that's not really a surprise. Right, really, really great across the board, this.
We're backstage with Pac. He gets asked about Death Triangle and goes... and says he's not concerned with that at the moment, but he gets interrupted regardless by the Bing Bing Ging, Jay White and the Guns. Jay says Death Triangle's did. Pac needs to be concerned with himself. He's coming off a loss. They mock him for the Okada loss, basically. He says if there's anyone who knows how to beat Okada, this guy. Maybe I should go after that title and add some gold to our haul. And he's got his gold baseball bat with 3 belts on it.
Looks pretty cool, that, doesn't it?
I was a bit confused why he had 3 belts until you explained why.
Yeah, he's got they're keeping the acclaimed pink scissor belts as trophies. They've got the actual AEW Trios belts, and they've got the Ring of Honor Trios belts because they haven't like consolidated the unified trios into one set of belts, and because it looks cool hanging off a gold bat.
It does. So. But he's got Rocky tonight. Learn about winning, basically, he says.
Like Triple H pilled bit of booking here because Pac loses to Okada. Pac needs Death Triangle back in order to fight the Bing Bing Ging. What does Triple H do in a situation like that? He looks for like a link you're not really thinking of, if only to drop in one promo to create hostility. Jay White's, I can beat Okada, I've beaten loads. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, Pac had never lost to Okada before, so he's feeling at a bit of a low ebb. And Jay White's got just a thing to make that even worse. Because I'm beating loads times. Piss beating Okada. Like, it doesn't hurt, by the way, that Jay White flexing on Okada could one day now come back to haunt him in AEW. But the fact that you've got this right now for Pac, good stuff. Like, I wouldn't have predicted when they booked Pac and Okada that you can later on get to some sort of like splinter thing with Jay White and the Death Triangle Bing Bing Gang. So good. Like, again, this is the stuff you want to see.
Travel agent Malachi Black comes next. He's offering to take Adam Copeland to that place for a discounted rate. He says, you were pivotal to the industry, but you are becoming painfully aware of your own mortality. You gave up everything to have a wife, children. You need to be reminded who you really are, not the father of a champion you think you are, but the cold-hearted son of a bitch that I must remind you about so you can truly live again.
Booking.com's Malachi Black. We've got special offers to that, please.
We get a great...
House of package deal. Get the flights included to that place if you order now.
We get a great video package next about visionary pioneers Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, how they are fighting the good fight and changing the world. And they cut backstage to them and they go, bloody hell, that was great, wasn't it? Whoever put that together deserves a raise. More of that instead of like bloody Kenny Omega in his hospital bed. They're arseholes and they say, oh, Swerve Strickland's next, that'll be good.
I am not one bit bored of these. It's like the credits last week. It's like the constant cut-tos. They do all this, and then they still have the temerity to say, like, there's been a bit much of us tonight. Let's lay off a little bit.
Hey.
Like,
we'll close the show, though.
Don't back down, double down. This is one of them. Keep doing this, I would say. It's good stuff.
Out comes the world champion next. Swerve Strickland comes down. He's in a foul mood, a fighting mood. He's got no Prince Nana with him, of course, this week. And we have the previously on AEW Dynamite recap of what happened last week with the Patriarchy's attack on Swerve and Nana. He said, look, when you become world champion, everyone wants a piece of you physically and literally. Killswitch took some of his hair, of course, last week. He says that he's the Conor McDavid of all elite wrestling. But they got a big, huge pop in Edmonton, of course. And Christian Cage, get your ass out here. He comes out to the stage with the Patriarchy, Killswitch, Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne's mine. Runs down the Edmonton Oilers. More local sports references. Tells Strickland last week was by design. Every week he's going to take something from Swerve until he finally takes the world title. Swerve has been riding this wave of momentum, but the waves are going to crash and it'll fall at Cage's feet. He deserves to be standing atop the mountain as world champion. When Swerve's house is foreclosed on, all he's going to have left is his stupid gold teeth, unless Cage takes them as well. So that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. So they surround the ring again. But Strickland says, I'm not alone. And the Mogul Embassy, remember them?
Yeah.
Show up. Gates of Agony, Brian Cage. Swerve says he's going to beat his ass like Kendrick did to Drake. It won't be the first time someone from the West Coast took out a fake father from Toronto. I understood that reference.
Yes.
He said, you made it, Christian. You made it where we have to play the politic game whilst I busted my ass. And when you're in an uncomfortable position, you say, I quit. Ooh. Cage is about to respond when all of a sudden, Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony betray Swerve Strickland, attack him from behind. Christian Cage starts screaming orders. Pop-up triple powerbomb. Referees trying to interfere. They just get hoyed out of there. They press slam Swerve to the floor. They rip apart the commentary table. They set the steps up and slam him through the table. And the Patriarchy walk through to the back, shake hands with the Young Bucks, who, whilst Cage says he's looking forward to conducting more business with them, whilst Matthew from the Young Bucks questions if that would have been considered a bitch move, obviously referencing Swerve, describing their actions towards Tony Khan towards that a while back.
Very, very good indeed, this. Very, very good indeed. Swerve and Cage is never going to be that kind of era-defining pay-per-view main event. And now with Anarchy in the Arena, it might not even be the show closer, right? It wasn't. Anarchy in the Arena went on last year as an example of how they've done that now. But they've established a lot here. And I don't think it's a retcon, but I think they've ever so slightly tweaked what they were initially trying to achieve with Swerve as like the working man's world champion. I don't think that was resonating. I don't think it was really that connected to what had got Swerve to the top of the mountain in the first place. But that whole it's been 3 shows and I've wrestled 3 matches. All right, well done. I think that had the opposite effect. Instead, what they've done here is they've very importantly kept Swerve tethered to the elite, because my whole issue with power struggle and administration is it makes the champion feel lesser than. What matters most in this company? Is it the belt all the wrestlers fight for? Or is it who's got control? It's supposed to be the belt is the answer to that question. It wasn't rhetorical. But right now it's power. So how do you keep those two things connected? It's with the elite having this vendetta against Swerve. And that's pretty cool, right? I like that they, ultimately they might want to take out Kenny Omega and they might want to, beat up all the baby faces in Anarchy in the Arena or keep Tony Khan sat in Jacksonville. But, it's not the worst thing when, the champion has raised their ire. Because now they're thinking, well, we want to get the belt on somebody we like. And Jack Perry down the line. Christian, you're the guy right now. He will fail. So that's a good bigger picture thing. In the meantime, they either forgot about the Gates of Agony. Or
Mogul MC were just not a thing for a bit.
Or this was hidden in plain sight, right? So Swerve beats, as we talked about, Swerve beats Claudio. And then Claudio, to sort of get back on the horse, as it were, beats Brian Cage. So that's got Brian Cage thinking, well, what am I, just chop liver? This was either a nice little detail in the way that they arranged those matches, or they did just forget, and then they've had them come out tonight. It doesn't really matter.
And Brian Cage, another adopted member of the family. Not family, patriarchy. Got me butter baby, I'm on a roll.
Uncle Brian, love it, right? Absolutely love that. Like, I want to see next week the Patriarchy's like grand mansion, and you see these two like raw iron like sort of doors, and it's like, no, they're not doors, they're the gates of agony. Right? So like, yeah, we've done it, we've completed that, fantastic. Earnestly now, what's the heat between Cage and Swerve now that in promo 1 he says, I'm pissed off about Nick Wayne and I'm pissed off about losing the coffin match at Wembley. It's like, I think you've burnt through everything that connects you two as characters. No anymore. Like, we took the hair because we're going to take something every week. As you pointed out, like they're already kind of like foreshadowing what else they're going to take. He's taken the Mogul Embassy. He's taken the hair. He's going to take the teeth. Mm-hmm. Like, what remains? Prince Nana, who was knocked out last week in order to create this tension of whose side is he on. And then there's your go home. He's going to pick Swerve. But like the tension in that go home angle where Cage thinks, I'm going to bring Prince Nana into my patriarchy. He's going to be the last thing I take. It's really nice week to week episodic storytelling stuff, this, even if this match maybe is no longer a main event concern.
There's also one other member, I suppose, technically, that could be removed from Swerve Strickland, who was sort of part of the Mogul Embassy affiliates thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if they take Rick Ross from him?
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Accusations!
Like, just Christian Cage reveals himself to have been a massive Rick Ross fan all these years. That could be very funny. That could be very amusing. Because I don't think he's a fan.
I don't believe it either.
But they could sure pretend he was. No, it was good, this.
We're backstage with Willow Nightingale, who's sporting a shiner from her, what was it called?
The Manitoba Mayhem?
Thank you, yeah. The chaos of that last week. She's not feeling super great physically, but emotionally and spiritually she feels great. She's ready for Mercedes, ready for any challenge. It's another stop in being a champion, she says. But is Mercedes ready, she says? Last time they stepped foot in the ring, she walked out the victor. She's got respect for her, but since then she's been on the run of her life. She's won in New Japan. She won the Owen Cup. She's the TBS champion. Yes, Mercedes can win all the attention and have all the red carpets, but in the ring, Willow's better. I hope Mercedes is ready for the fight of her life.
Is it easier to recap this when we get to the Mercedes
Probably.
one? Or do you want to do the Mercedes one now? Which way around do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's talk about the Mercedes one because it doesn't necessarily need to go in that,
reply,
that part of the show.
Yeah.
Mercedes later on says they're 18 days away from her debut, which of course, if you know maths as well as I do, that is 2 times.
9 days!
She says AEW's where the best wrestle.
Why not?
She thrives in that spotlight. She's going to be courtside at the Celtics game tomorrow. She's throwing out the first pitch at the Red Sox. She's ready for Double or Nothing. Willow Nightingale took something from her she'll never get back. Time. She'll be ready because she's that bitch. There should be an asterisk next to Nightingale's victory, and she's going to wipe the stupid smile from her face and take her title.
AEW is where the best wrestle, but it's also where the best talk. So what's she doing there? Like, this was another piss weak vocal performance from Mercedes Moné. And the thing is, it was more irritating this week because they revealed a thing they could do, and you just have a feeling in your guts that they won't. They had Mercedes Moné cut another one of these promos that I don't think is entirely her fault, but I think she's just like, it's either a choice or just her cadence that, like, it sounds extremely delivered. And it sounds very prepared and very like I'm trying really hard not to say like WWE like, because within that setting, again, with context is everything. Like, I don't think WWE stuff feels fake in a WWE ring, but I completely see it when it's outside of one.
Yeah.
Like if Seth Rollins talks and cackles like he does on like a red carpet versus doing it on Raw, stop it. You know, like. And at the moment, that feels a bit like what Mercedes Moné is doing in AEW. However, in this very promo, she spoke about all the like awesome things she's been doing and all the things she's about to do. Don't show this promo, show them. Have AEW's Mercedes Moné in all these like glamorous places and get across who this character is, because I don't know who this character is other than a person that delivers like lines robotically, a person that might not be able to gear anymore because I've not seen any evidence of it. I know I'm a wrestling fan. I know who Sasha Banks is. I know who Mercedes Moné is. Like, but doesn't this feel like this? Like the pressure on this match, like is greater than just about any on the show, and it's nothing to do with the kayfabe. The stakes of this match are higher than the world title match because it's not about a fictional belt. It's about how we assess this run.
Plus, it's also it's been a weird dynamic from the moment you announced it because you're like, you're going to try and turn Willow heel?
And the promos are, I'm a fighting champion kicking ass every week.
Yeah.
They're not turning Willow heel. She's the babyface.
Exactly.
She's the babyface, but your brand new big star in her debut match is going to get an enormous response. So how are you going to square that circle on the night?
He's also not preparing for the match. He's busy off doing the Rocky 3. I'm just going to go and be a celebrity. Yeah.
So the psychology of Rocky 3 is he gets his arse handed to him and then he has to kind of go back to basics. She's going to win the belt, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
It's weird, man. And it might work out fine on the night, but isn't that...
It's a lot of pressure, like you say.
Loads. So much pressure. And I just think they've welcomed that themselves with some of the booking. I don't think Mercedes Mone has been a strong verbal performer yet, but then I also don't think they've had a great deal to sink the teeth into.
Too soon.
Well, I just don't think they've had a lot to sink the teeth into. Was she cleared? Was she not?
Yeah.
And
fair.
The attack in the darkness, it was Chris Statlander.
What?
But that exists to babyface Mone and frame Willow Nightingale and turn Chris Statlander. It's too busy.
It's a danger they've forgotten that as well, or people have forgotten that.
It's not come up in the last couple of weeks, has it? So maybe one of the reasons that is because people take the piss out of the performance because of the selling Mercedes was doing.
I think I've got a clip of it here. 1 second, if I can just play the sound of the attack. I think that was it.
I think it might have been,
mislabeled that, actually.
Yeah.
And I suppose maybe the other thing is Julia Hart's gone away, so the whole lights off, lights on thing that's just an injury. So that they had no control over that. So
that's a good Al.
Jay White versus Rocky Romero next.
That's a good Al. First play, right? As far as wrestling matches go, this show was one.
Rocky got a chance to shine, suckered White into chasing him onto the floor, hit a drop kick through the ropes and a dive. But he got his head taken off with a lariat to take us to a break. Made a comeback when we came back, floating over a suplex, and hitting a springboard spinning DDT. There's a Hurricane Rana off the ring steps. Look good from Rocky Romero in here. Back and forth. Romero wants sliced bread. White wants Blade Runner. He got sliced bread. He got a near fall off the back of it. Went for it again though and got snatched out of the air though by Jay White, who followed it up with Blade Runner. 1, 2, 3. Guns jump in and kick the crap out of him afterwards, and Pac makes the save.
Again, was this... Pac made the save great. That's what they're doing. I praise that. Please remember that I praise that because I'm going to be critical again. Again, was this about trying to put over that Rocky Romero is going to try and make it work as a singles wrestler, because the commentary was big into talking about how Romero's approach to this match and that his game plan was spot on, other than the fact he lost, of course. Don't work me, bro. This is when friggin' is it niche anymore? I don't know. Feels like a niche reference. When Arsene Wenger would complain about a team coming and parking the bus against his beautiful free-flowing Arsenal side, right? But would then praise a team my bad team, Sunderland, for turning up and getting beat 5-0, but playing the game the proper way. Yeah. Well done, Rocky Romero. You really wrestled the proper style in which Jay White kicked your head in for most of it and then pinned you. But otherwise, the tactical approach was fantastic. Really, the beautiful game playing out when you got your arse handed to you. I feel like we were being told to think he's kind of a wrestling genius if he wasn't just getting beaten all over and losing. Is that for the Rocky Romero push? Maybe so, but...
Right. We had a great video package with Samoa Joe, surprise, surprise, talking about being a warrior.
Getting ready for the combine.
Then it's time. NXT reviews available right now. It was a very serious analysis of that show if you want to check out the video version especially.
I think it's about time more people tuned in for catching all our colleagues at their best.
I'd say it was one of the best podcasts we've done this week. In fact, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to get an impartial opinion on this. Mm-hmm. Mike, what do you reckon? Do you think it was a good show that we did on NXT this week?
Strongly agree.
Thanks. Right, it's time for us to sit under the learning tree.
Man, a few words, but they're all potent.
Get well soon to Michael Sidgwick, as many people are echoing for a variety of different reasons.
Get well soon, Michael Sidgwick, please, as I believe my good friend Matt Rains tweeted.
Yeah. Wonder why that was. Anyway. Do you want to go and sit under the learning tree?
Never, ever in my life.
Well, we're going there anyway. It was Chris Jericho and Big Bill versus Mo Jabari and Harlan Abbott. Jericho's doing the whole, come on, thanks, guys, thing. Tags in Bill basically straight away, who does all the work. Corner splashes to both of them. Big boots, boss man slam, choke slam each. Jericho's like, tag me. And poor Harlan Abbott's like, where am I? Head off with a Judas effect for the 1, 2, 3. Jericho gets on the mic afterwards. Oh, no, mixes up Edmonton and Calgary.
Yeah.
That's going to get booing from the crowd now. He's meant to be the conquering. Anyway, sometimes you make mistakes. That was a nice line. Sometimes you make mistakes when you're traveling the world creating memories for everyone. Yeah. So Jericho says, I wish I could be on Dynamite for 2 hours. Hang on, I definitely have a button for this one. No! 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 But thanks the big Redwood, Big Bill.
Yeah.
Who's taking pointers from the learning tree, despite being a former tag team champion. He thanks Shibata about their match last week. He says they chopped each other 79 times and got the highest rating on Cage Match last week.
Yeah.
He thanks Hook, who essentially hit himself in the face with a baseball bat at Dynasty. But he gets cut off by Tony Schiavone, who says, well, you're talking about Hook and wondering when he's going to be coming back. It's going to be next week, and Jericho pretends to be thrilled about that and says they can celebrate together.
Yeah, great. Looking forward to it. Look, I watched Dynamite this morning. I had my feelings about the show. I had my feelings about this segment. I went on X to gauge the pulse a little bit, and the praise I was seeing for Chris Jericho, I can only compare that when you inadvertently swipe down the For You tab and like they show you a video of a shoot murder. Like, it's like, X, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Why am I looking at this? That's how it felt reading people's tweets this. Not like, nice one, dumbasses. Yes, the like worker with 30 odd years experience has figured out a way to get something over. Like, can we not give medals to for once in our lives? And we're not learning anything, right? Like, just praising the fact that his promo delivery was like pretty good for this character he's portraying, the agent into this match, like with the layout of the match, the structure of the match, the little sort of nudges and winks with Big Bill and the Hook stuff and that. Yes, like, shock of all shocks, guy that has spent his career figuring out how to work out the kinks in a character and get that character over has done it. Big f***ing whoop, right? This is the problem. This is Chris Jericho, once again, is the problem, right? Who else would get the reactions like he got as far back as December? And we are here in f***ing May getting a chance to work these kinks out. How many wrestlers have had to die on the vine while Chris Jericho gets 5 months, right? How many women haven't even had 5 weeks to build a title program before they disappear off television into a real vortex while Chris Jericho gets his kayfabe one over? That's the problem.
Here's Deonna Purrazzo. Here's Thunder Rosa. Bye.
I just, like, what are we doing here? Well, like, we think, well done, Chris. You've done it again. Of course he has. He's had months to figure it out. He's been given TV time week after week after week after week in segments, getting reactions that would have burned careers to the ground. While he's like, well, not this week, Tony, but I'll get him next week. Am I right? You sure will, Chris. It's great stuff. Like, kiss my arse, Chris Jericho, and kiss my arse too if you continue to praise this man. He's every bit the carny that he pretends is part of his act. Off, Chris. And while you're at it, off Tony Khan for letting Big Bill die out there with him.
Yeah.
We lost a good one there, man.
I said if it was Ogogo, I'd allow it. Big lads could learn stuff from him.
Oh, man.
Big Bill doesn't need this. I know that's the whole point. It's like, he doesn't bloody need this.
No, and like, Chris Jericho, right, I saw that footage, convenient that I did, where he was putting over Swerve Strickland at some party after he'd won the belt. I have no doubt that there are people backstage in that company that genuinely consider Chris Jericho to be an actual shoot learning tree. There will be people that he will give advice to because, again, 35 years in the game, right, there is so much value that Chris Jericho must have to those wrestlers backstage. Keep it there. Right? If you want to be a real learner...
Make like a tree. Get out of here.
Yeah. You know what I would love Chris Jericho to do? Do what Tony Khan's doing and work from a laptop in Jacksonville. Nothing would give me greater pleasure than him running an advice session for any AEW wrestler, I don't know, under the age of 60, that like, because I include you in this, Billy Gunn, you're part of the problem, like, that could offer advice to countless young wrestlers on that roster featuring 100 guys that could do with half the television time that Chris Jericho gets. And yet we praise. We praise. We get grief, and I include Cedric in this, get grief for like, we lowering the bar to like praise WWE. The bar is through the floor when it comes to the last 6 months of Chris Jericho's career, but just because he got hockey pucks out in a Shibata match or has figured out the cadence of this character's promos when I was supposed to do
I fell for it last week.
It's taking the piss. It is absolutely, stop it. Stop it. Like, if you want to bollock us, or anyone else for that matter, for having a high bar for AEW, stop praising this character. Do better, be better. What was next?
Can't disagree. Main event was next.
Good. This kicked ass.
TNT title.
This ruled.
No DQ. Brody King, Adam Copeland. Early on, Copeland blow bridges King to the apron, goes for a spear, but gets caught with a neck breaker through the ropes. That takes us to our first break. King tries for a charge against the guardrail, but Copeland moves, and King just smashes into it, and Copeland hits him with chair shots. They both fight to the apron. Copeland avoids a pile driver by going for the eyes. DDT on the chair off the edge of the ring, busting Brody King wide open.
Oh, yeah, button on this.
Oh, my God.
Not use that on this podcast.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
This match had, oh, my God, out the ass.
So that shot.
No, raise my tears. Just, oh, my God.
There was a bit where I'll see if I think I got it in my notes. I swear I've written it down somewhere, where they showed a close-up of Brody King getting up, and it was just pissing out of his head.
I didn't care.
No.
He was like, well, it's a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Like, on to business.
His sweat's pretty thick. That's what he was thinking. Anyway, King's just smiling at all the punishment. He spits at Copeland, who slaps him in the face. Copeland goes up top and gets a crossbody for a near fall. He breaks apart a chair, wedges it in the corner, gets the bit of the chair, but gets caught with a big lariat by King. This was it where they showed him. Just blood's all over the ring, all over everybody. Copeland gets smashed in the corner, but he dodges a charge again. Leg sweep into a crossface with a bit of the chair. We go to a break. There's some bits with the table and stuff like that. Copeland, when we come back, has set one up at ringside, wants to suplex him into it, but King sends him crashing out to the floor. King tries to suplex of his own, but Copeland fights out. King tries to do that hanging sleeper in the corner, but Copeland gets out of that. They both get up, and there's a double clothesline. They're both down. They rise back up. King hits a lariat. Copeland goes for a fireman's carry, but King just collapses on top of him and hits a corner cannonball for a near fall. Copeland gets out of a powerbomb, sit-out slam, but he wants a spear following that up, and King leaps over the top and hits a spike pile driver.
Oh, my God.
They roll to the apron. Copeland Death Valley drivers him on the apron.
Oh, my God.
King slowly gets up, turns around, spear through the ropes from Copeland, through the table at ringside.
Oh, my God.
They get back inside, another spear from Copeland. 1, 2, 3. But then post-match, Brody King won't die. He gets back up and attacks Copeland. Kyle O'Reilly has to run out to make the save, and they team up to clothesline him out to the floor. And there's just blood everywhere, basically.
Oh, God, call me Princess Unicorn in this match, because my horn could pierce the sky. I couldn't have loved this more. Like, this Adam Copeland run is like shoot conditional goated. I think it's not been perfect, but like the hits are outweighing the misses by a substantial margin at this point. God almighty, how much did I not need Malachi Black effectively taking credit for the quality of this match by saying he'd predicted him beforehand? Can it not just be that like two guys wanted to fight over a belt, because that was what was actually happening?
And he knew this was the level he was going to have to take it to, because he's facing Brody King.
Yeah, I am going to choose not to think that Adam Copeland was booking his ticket to that place, and that he was just wanting to defend his title in much the same way John Moxley was against another Brody Lee at Double Nothing 2020, because this had so many of the hallmarks of that. Like, he would not stay down, Brody King, in this one. Again, the moves seem to make him angrier rather than put him in more pain, which is perfect, because the whole thing about the Copeland is he's kind of escalating his offense, and he's willing to risk injuring himself for the cause. That's kind of not the band, the cause. He's like, for the cause of defending the TNT title. That's the new wrinkle to Cope. That's made sense of the grit.
Yes.
I didn't want to see Cope's grit go half an hour in an empty gym with Randy Orton. I wanted to see him risk his body against Brody King. this is it. Like, he has done this in a way that, in a very like sort of edge way as he would do in WWE, he's done it in a way where you felt it escalate. Like a master like match constructor. Adam Copeland, him and Christian, both geniuses at it. He's kind of doing this. He's applying his match construction trick across a series of matches. So you see, like, how much more did it take him this week than it took him last week against Buddy Matthews? And that's not a burial of Buddy. That's just Christ, different beast, different challenge. Maybe I am going to have to go to that place, but like, not for magic powers, just to win, just to retain your title. That'll do. That'll absolutely do. A fabulous main event. Yet again, AEW acting as its best self, because it was just the type of energy that like rarely gets summoned in a WWE match. The type of energy that I feel like Cody Rhodes was trying to find against AJ Styles. And in order to do that, they had to do a 1 count off a burning hammer. Like, that's how high you got to in front of one of the hottest crowds in the company's history. That's what they needed to achieve what AEW did in a Dynamite main event here. The good stuff being done by a company that is still capable of great. Couldn't have loved this more. Wish it didn't have the cloud of law hanging over the top of it. And I tell you what, they might have just created a genuinely suspenseful match between Adam Copeland and Kyle O'Reilly here, right? Because last week it was all like, eyes up here, pal. Like, and you were thinking, hang on, I know it's in his hometown, but you're doing a title defense against Kyle O'Reilly. Sorry, I've stepped on your dick there, but after the match, Copeland gives him the title shot, which we knew was coming. Like, you were like, why are you doing that now? He's going to fight Brody King next week. It's Malachi Black at Double or Nothing. Like, yet another obvious winner, obvious loser title match. That's less than ideal. But is it now? Because Kyle O'Reilly's wrestling a guy in his hometown who is dead. Like, because he's just barely survived Brody King. Like, he's gone to that place. Adam Copeland either loses because he's knackered in a proper twist, throws the booking you had in your head up in the air. Malachi Black's like, I didn't consider the consequences of my actions. Like, I shouldn't have sent Copeland to that place because look what's happened. He's gone too far against King, and now I've lost my title shot. Or does Copeland go so far to that place that he brutalizes his mate, Kyle O'Reilly, and then by beating him to retain, when it gets
a man with a history of neck issues.
Yeah, when it gets to Double or Nothing, Kyle O'Reilly is part of Copeland losing the title to Malachi Black. This is unpredictable. Kyle O'Reilly could win. Yeah. He could get it done in one of them proper, AEW still got them in them, where it's like, what's a good, like, I would say FTR and Big Bill and Ricky Stark's probably the best recent example. Jesus Christ, all right, we're doing this then. Like, you've seen that Black Edge graphic for weeks, and they could just rip it away from you and have Kyle O'Reilly win the title unexpectedly as a result of the damage inflicted upon Adam Copeland in this match.
We'll talk more about it on the Collision preview tomorrow.
Get well soon, Sidge. Really soon.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I was just watching Adam Copeland. He stood there thinking, what can I do? Staring at Brody King. He was breathless. He's not so young anymore. And I wouldn't have blamed him if he'd run away. So
that's why he's the best in the business.
Let's get to the... Yeah. Calls were class.
I was watching him do it.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the last 5 minutes of what he was saying, but it was really good.
That's what's great about being an analyst in this podcast, is that if you've inadvertently teed up Wilbourn for a joke, he's not going to give a about what you've got to say.
So the title shot collision.
his head's gone. His head's gone. He's putting the calls on when he gets back to his desk.
That's some bangers. I forgot how many good songs they had.
The Tintin Out remix version of the Talk on Corners album. Goated. Better than the original, which unfortunately is the only one available on Spotify. Because I have searched the calls on Spotify before.
Yeah, we get the bit backstage with Lexi Nair and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Copeland. I like the fact that Adam Copeland just went, so that's why you did it. Well, fair enough. I respect the hustle. And then the Elite come out to close out the show. They've asked the network for an overrun, as we've mentioned. This show doesn't end until they say it does. They give the mic to Kazuchika Okada, who says, the best bout machine says, get well soon. Bastard.
The best bout machine.
Matthew Jackson. Tells Tony Khan, who's watching.
I know the Elite are heels, but Christ almighty.
He says Tony Khan's the best boss they've ever had, but he had to get out of his own way. They left us no choice but hit Tony Khan with a Tony Khan driver and then to lay out an EVP with an EVP trigger. The only reason FTR helped Omega is because they hate us. They accept Anarchy in the arena and say, good luck finding two partners. We run this show. So FTR obviously come out and we're like, okay, who's it going to be? And FTR say, we got two guys with big balls. who accepting this job, accepting this match at Double or Nothing. Anarchy in the arena. Eddie Kingston comes out. And who is the final man on the team? None other than the American Dragon himself, Bryan Danielson. They walk down to the ring. There's a face-off. Matthew Jackson says, you should think about things before you place a finger on us. I'm very certain he doesn't get to the end of that sentence before Eddie Kingston swings for him. Big brawl to end the show. Great angle to close out this.
Oh, yeah, man. Anarchy in the Arena is going to be an absolute thriller. I absolutely loved it when the babyfaces hold the heels to beat it because Kingston and Bryan are bad and dangerous. See, we can both do it, can't we? You see that? Oh, man. I'm going to reverse out of that cul-de-sac because this was good stuff.
Yeah.
This was good stuff. Kingston and Bryan, just perfect wrestlers to slot in alongside FTR here with Kenny still in the hospital because that comeback is still to come.
Yeah.
Obviously,
with...
We've left Hangman Page in the back pocket, haven't we? Which is great because I've seen a lot of speculation that he might actually be a heel because of what happened to him prior to him exiting and how that's going to play. And I don't think he will, but it's nice that you've preserved him. Kingston and Bryan having their own, they've just gained mutual respect for each other, and that is going to be put to the ultimate test because when Kingston brought the gas can out at Anarchy in Arena 2022, Bryan was like, enough, mate, you cannot set Chris Jericho on fire. Can't you? The fact that now that comes into play, and are we going to see Bryan this time be the one I'll get the gas canister.
I'll get the matches, you get the gas canister.
Yeah. I love the idea of them becoming like buddy cops all of a sudden alongside FTR. It's Anarchy in the Arena, so Cash can bring his gun. It's gonna, but in all seriousness, this match is gonna own, isn't it? This is gonna rule. You've got the Bucks as just master architects of this sort of thing. You've got Eddie Kingston, who we've already seen is perfect for the atmosphere. You've got Kazuchika Okada, who is the polar opposite of this atmosphere. What's that gonna look like? This was the perfect, get hyped, it's gonna rule. The baby faces are proper good guys, and the Elite will win. And the Elite are gonna win, and it's gonna be pathetic how they do it. There's gonna be some awesome set piece that the Young Bucks set up, and then Jack Perry's gonna fall on top of Dax Harwood for the win or something like that. I did it. It's gonna be great.
What if they're about to set Jack Perry on fire?
I can get there.
But what's the one thing that puts out fire? Water. Where can water come from? The sky. What's that form? Rain. Rainmaker. Just a really localized cloud over Jack Perry is what I mean.
We need water.
And people say I book unpredictable, impossible things.
There's it's only a small flame, so you need a small amount of water to put it out.
Yeah.
What do you store a small amount of water in? A real glass. or everyone's so upset they cry rivers, and then the fire gets put out.
Rainmaker. Well, like fishmonger. Anyway, let us know your thoughts.
That's 4 finishes we're going there, AEW. You are welcome.
Let us know your thoughts on AEW Dynamite. That's relatively professional today. In the comments section below. Or on X at WhatCultureWWE. Send your well wishes to Michael Sidgwick at msidgwick. You can follow Michael Hamflett on X at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. And as I said, make sure you join us 6 p.m. today on the What Culture Wrestling podcast channel.
What's that catchphrase again?
Remember,
the 10th of May.
That's tomorrow, but today, 6 p.m., the Dudley Boys bit of the live show from It's Always Sunny at What Culture is going to be going out. And then tomorrow, 3 p.m. on the What Culture Wrestling YouTube channel. That is where the entire live show, It's Always Sunny at What Culture, is going to go out. But for now, this has been the Dynamite Review. My thanks to Hamflett. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.